running a very tight schedule, but hey, some of the speakers doing great job presenting their sessions in just 20 minutes, which is, I know it is hard. Hey everyone, welcome back to another session. And I want to introduce my next guest, which is Oliver from another awesome company, Screaming Frog. I'm pretty sure that a lot of you, if not used, but probably heard of it. So Oliver is going to talk about how to build user trust through simple user experience tweaks.
Cool. I will get straight on with it then, as we're running a few minutes late. Let me just share my screen. So, is that big for everyone? Can you see that?
Yep, everyone can see it.
Cool, brilliant. Right, thank you. So, yes, my name is Oliver Brett, as you said. I've recently been promoted to Head of Strategy at Screaming Frog. It's a very big strategy department here at Screaming Frog. Lots of handsome people, lots of intellectuals, very smart people. It's a department of one person, but hopefully I can prove to you that it's well worth listening to. Yes, like I said, we work for Screaming Frog. And if you're unaware of where the name came from, because it is a little bit unusual, there was actually a cat in one of our directors' gardens who went to go fight a frog. And then the frog, instead of running away, actually screamed so loudly that the cat ran away from the frog. I'm not sure what that says about our company values, but at least it's an interesting one and hopefully a memorable name as well. You may wish to follow me on Twitter. My name is @OliverBrett on there. But I'm mostly famous on Twitter for @Lord of the SERPs, which is a stupid little account I made a few years back now, where I basically post common SEO problems that people have and then try and relate them to a Lord of the Rings GIF, obviously. And this has become so popular, actually, that John Mueller from Google himself has started replying to me. John hasn't quite figured out that it's supposed to be Lord of the Rings themed, but that's something that I'm working on as part of my SEO career. So yeah, that's just a bit of fun that I like to do on Twitter. So with today's talk then, I'm just going to guide you through this hypothetical situation that you may find yourself in. So hypothetically, your digital PR, your thought leadership, your most Instagrammed, Disney princess themed interactive content marketing that was ideated featuring cute puppies and Elon Musk, that was reimagined with the Friends theme, gone sexual influencer clickbait around the world, in maps of the world, this one trick, fake news, data-driven analytics. Anyway, your link building activity, whatever that was, if you're a digital PR or you're a content marketer, let's just pretend that hypothetically that has gone really, really well, and your PR software is telling you it's actually had 2.15 billion online readers, which is technically the population of China and India combined. So if you've achieved that with your PR work, then you're definitely doing something right. And also hypothetically, in this situation I'm trying to describe, everything has gone right technically with the website, and your tech SEOs are happy. This is the Screaming Frog technical SEO team, and they're on holiday here, so you can see they're actually trying to smile, which I know is difficult for some technical SEOs, but they're having a good time because they're as far away from a website as they possibly can be. Now, in this hypothetical world, you've still got clients, unfortunately. And unfortunately, even though if your link building goes great and all your technical goes great, they'll still be asking questions like, why aren't we making more money? Or why has organic leveled off? Or what about lead generation? Why am I even paying you? Or my personal favorite, which I've received quite a lot recently, is what's our holistic SEO strategy? Which, to be honest, I have no idea what that means, but apparently that's kind of the kind of structure of things that we should be thinking about in terms of coming up with jargon to appease our clients or potentially our managers within in-house jobs. What these people are really asking you is, what about second breakfast? You're doing everything right, but how do we push things even further? Now, initial keyword research and targeting often focuses on both informational or commercial keywords. And that is a valid approach at the start of an SEO campaign. Often it'll be sort of commercial keywords where you want to buy something or you want a service, or it might be informational queries. We want to get in front of people who are doing research. We want to be there for featured snippets, that kind of thing. But what users are also thinking subconsciously while they're doing either research or they're trying to buy something is, why should we pick you for whatever it is that you sell or offer? The broader question here that users want answered while they're doing their research is, why you? And again, Google, obviously, in their wisdom, have a solution to solve this with their algorithm, and that to some extent they call it EAT. Now, if Google was a British company, Screaming Frog is a British company for the context here, I'm pretty sure they would have called it TEA, but unfortunately, they're American, so they've gone for EAT. And just for a quick recap, as you all know, EAT stands for expertise. Do you know what you're talking about? Authoritativeness. Does anyone else like you? And trust. Are you or are you not secretly evil? Conveniently for my presentation, this is also kind of how you would interact with a website yourself when you are assessing whether you want to buy something from it or maybe you trust it for the information. These are the types of questions that users will be asking your website, which is also why Google's system kind of tries to replicate this as well when they're looking at the quality of your content. And so the general broad stroke here is that user trust is key for conversions. Now, conveniently, if you read all that and watched all that and you're wondering, okay, well, how do we do all that? I've now got our easy CRO audits with an SEO EAT focus that I will now run you through. It's worth bearing in mind this is how Screaming Frog do our consultancy projects for a lot of our clients. And this is a very sort of quick, easy, dirty way of just getting some answers, getting some sort of quick wins, I suppose you might call them. As there's 6 steps to this process. First thing we'll do is a quick sanity check of the website. We'll then get some data. We'll then examine that data. We'll then do a bit of competitor analysis. We'll then consider the UX in a bit more detail because there's some little things you can pick up there. And then finally, we'll think about signposting trust, which is quite a big thing for EAT, sort of proving that you're a reliable business. And that sort of goes beyond SEO as well. I suppose it's generally a good practice to have trust on in your website. Without further ado, then we shall start. Step 1 is the sanity check. Now, as an SEO, your superpower is you're actually obsessed with websites, and you've already got all the skills you need to do this without requiring any fancy software or anything. The process is quite simple. All you really need to do is get a pen and paper, go through the website, and just write down everything that just makes you want to scream, or anything that's just really bugs you or is annoying. And it can be really specific stuff. So, for example, it might be out-of-date social media icons that just make the site look a bit dated, aggressive SSL 100% secure icons. You might think about aggressive calls to action that just look a bit spammy and aggressive, and I don't know if I want to put my credit card there. Rubbish crap stock photography might be in consideration. You know, there's no harm in using good stock photography if you can find it, but putting it there for the sake of it is generally a bad idea. And if you want to show that you're a real company, you should try and use real images where possible. Color consistency, again, is something to consider. Font consistency. We had this client that launched this website with about 7 different fonts. And while this is a very, very niche thing, and I'm not saying it's a ranking factor or anything, from a user perspective, it does feel a bit higgledy-piggledy and sort of all over the place. Annoying animations is another one that you might just jot down. Keyword stuffing. This is an example my colleague found a few months back of a client. They had a website where they had every single keyword they could think of about kitchen cabinets, and they just put that at the bottom of every single page. And it's amazing that that still continues on in 2021. Consistent tone of voice is obviously another one. You want to make sure that your narrative and your language is all pretty consistent so people don't feel a bit disjointed when they go across different pages. Forms and signups. I know I'm not a freelancer, but I've been told that tax returns can be quite annoying if you're self-employed. So try and avoid doing whatever government you work for does is always a good start. Autoplay videos is another one that can be quite annoying and can be abrasive for certain people. And broken checkouts. Now, this is one that you would think is obvious, but when testing websites, we often find we get to the point where we want to buy something and then we discover we just can't actually buy something. And is that not the kind of whole point of the website? So it's always just worth double checking that for sanity's sake. From that, then you'll just have a sort of general overview of where the major issues are and some quick notes on that, what areas they think they should improve. But we can be a bit more specific and back up our findings with a bit of data. So the next step is to get user data. Now, Mark here is our head of marketing at Screaming Frog. And Mark recently helped me get my promotion to head of strategy. So to pay back Mark, I thought I would just do a little bit of marketing on behalf of Mark. I'd like to stress this isn't a sales pitch or anything. Other crawlers are available. But a really good way to get data is to use the Screaming Frog spider tool. I'm not going to run through the specifics of how to use it. There are links on our website. If you just sort of Google it, I'm sure if you type in how to API with Screaming Frog, it'll come up. But in terms of configuration, you can enable APIs. You can get Google Analytics in there. You can get Google Search Console in there. And this will then spit out all the data that you might need in terms of Google Analytics around sort of user metrics, or Google Search Console in terms of site performance on all these different landing pages that you've got. You can then whack that into Excel, and then you can create a nice little spreadsheet where you can sort of highlight where the issues might be around specific landing pages that fall below the average, whether it's sort of the average click-through rate or bounce rate or whatever it is. There are lots of other ways of getting data, obviously. I mean, you can look at stuff like site search in Google Analytics just to see what people are looking for and why they're getting confused. There's lots of other tools you can use out there to help you find the data, but it's just a general way of getting some data together. And once you've got that data, I suppose the next thing that you want to consider is the outliers, the specific pages that are underperforming, that don't follow the general trend, that might indicate where they might need improving. There's a few sort of data points we can consider here. So if you've got high bounce rate pages, you might consider it could just be down to bad first impression. This is a newspaper in the United Kingdom, and the main headline they had on this day, this is one of the major newspapers we have, was "Homeowner stunned as couple sit down to eat their dinner in her garden." And if you're American, you have to know that in England, that is a crime punishable by being fed to the Queen. So, you've got to make sure that you're doing that safe. But in terms of bounce rate, perhaps if I clicked on this and I just thought, what about someone eating dinner in a garden? I'm confused. You may immediately leave the website, and I'm sure that might be the case for your website too. Another thing with bounce rate could be site speed. I mean, this is the speed of another magazine in the UK, the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail actually recently tried to sue Google because they weren't appearing enough on the search results. But if you're an SEO and you spend 5 minutes looking at the website, you realize, their home URL is home/index, and the site speed is awful, and the content is awful, and the internal linking is an absolute mess. And you're kind of thinking, maybe it's their fault, not Google's fault, that they're not appearing. If you've got lots of load time on page, that could indicate, does the content flow well enough, and is it surprising enough? So, I mean, in terms of flow, are you scrolling through your page and you're thinking, okay, this is relevant, this is interesting, I'm engaged with this. And in terms of surprising stuff, it's always worth considering, if your content is just a normal page, the same as all the other competitors, what can you do to make it stand out? Can you add a bit of color? Can you add some images? Change up the layout just to keep people on their toes and keep them engaged. High exit rate could indicate improved internal linking might be necessary. And think about where users go next. So Mark here, our head of marketing, has done a great job here. As you can see, we've got all our sort of services on this page. And then when we get to the bottom, we then have some case study links to encourage people to click through onto those and stay on our site for a bit longer and be exposed to our site. So doing a great job there, Mark, as our head of marketing, smashing it. Low conversion rate, little trick for this one. I've read about, but never actually seen implemented. So I don't know if it actually exists, but something that you might want to try is a lot of blogs I read on UX are highlighting that if you've got a headshot of a person with their eye line, it's kind of human nature to follow the eyes to wherever they're looking. So you could then put the conversion button or whatever it is you want people to click on in the eye line of whatever photography you've got. And that might encourage people to sort of mouse over it and click on it. I mean, everything we're talking about today can hopefully improve conversion rates through improving user trust, but that's just one of the tricks you may be interested in. Low click-through rate. To explain this, I have to explain what Marmite is. If you're British, you'll know what Marmite is. If you don't, it's kind of like a disgusting brown paste that tastes like salt and smells, and people eat it in sandwiches with cheese. I actually took the screenshot before Google started messing with all the page title stuff recently. But before that, they just had Marmite, and then the meta description is obviously just taken from content on the page because they haven't added one. and then the sort of confusing links at the bottom. So, I mean, the point here is that metadata can be improved, and potentially Marmite can be improved as well, unless you're really into sort of salty tasting, smelly brown gunk in your sandwiches. Another thing to consider in terms of low click-through rate is, do you have the right user intent? I'm sure everyone's heard of user intent at this point, but thinking about, if you're on page 2 with a commercial page, and everyone else is on page 1 with an information page, that might suggest if you create an information page, then maybe that's where you're going wrong, and that's how you need to better target that keyword. And then geography and language is also a consideration. I mean, if you have a lot of Spanish-speaking people or French-speaking people trying to access your website, you can see that in Google Analytics, and they're bouncing a lot more than the English-speaking people or whatever your language is. That's also something to consider. You may wish to then create a different language version of the site. Step 4 is competitor analysis. This is one of my favorite memes. Just basically says, I made this. Oh, you made this? Oh, I made this. And the takeaway here is you can just basically steal other people's good ideas, and copyright pending, you can probably generally get away with them if it's just improving your website. The easiest way to do competitor analysis, if you're a caveman like me, is to just Google the target keyword, see what ranks in the first 5 or so, and then generally just make some notes on why they're good, what they've got that you don't, and what the common themes are. You may wish to also consider different websites and what the recurring themes are that they all contain. I have been told there are software available that does this a lot better than me writing down with a pen and paper. So if you want to supercharge that, I'm sure there are options available for that. But the point is that you want to just get a list together of sort of what competitors are doing and what you don't have that they do have. I believe outranking is a great way of doing that. Step 5 then, once you've got all that together, is to consider the UX specifically. The first thing you should probably consider is mobile versus desktop. Making sure it works on both sites is obviously essential. Mobile first came in years and years ago now, and if your mobile site doesn't work, then please immediately turn off this presentation and go fix that. Little trick if you're lazy like me is, if you're on Chrome on your desktop, you can right-click and click Inspect. There's a little button in Chrome's sort of Devi tools that comes up, that little button with the boxes there. What that will do is then show you your website of how it looks on a mobile. So if you're too lazy to get your phone out of your pocket like I am, you can then examine it on your desktop as a mobile site, and that's quite powerful. Just quickly get some screenshots or have a quick look at it on various devices to make sure that it works. Browsers and screen sizes can vary a lot, and so that's also a consideration. I think a lot of people who are SEOs often have 2 massive monitors, maybe 3, and a light-up keyboard and all this fancy technology, but you have to take the perspective of your customers. Maybe they work with smaller laptops, maybe they access it on tablets, maybe they're using a CRT monitor from the 90s. Whatever it is, you can use Google Analytics to find out what the sort of average is, and you should really optimize towards that. Another thing to consider is browsers. This is a GIF that one of our front-end developers sent me once when he was building a little interactive gizmo for one of our clients. It's Dora the Explorer machine gunning the Internet Explorer logo. If you've ever worked with front-end developers, you'll know as soon as you say it has to work for Internet Explorer, they will immediately kick up a hissy fit. So make sure you're prepared for that. And again, with Google Analytics, you can quite quickly look at the data and see how many of your audience go on different browsers, and then you can optimize depending on what scale of your users are still on these sort of legacy browsers. Reviewing the main navigation, this is another thing that Mark, our head of marketing, has done a great job on. He's made sure that the download button for our software is right at the top, so it's very hard to miss, and that's a great way to sort of optimize that. I mean, it's great to think of a navigation in terms of alphabetical layout, but at the same time, you've got to think about what's like the primary action you want users to take, and optimizing the site for that is a great way of doing that. Contact forms, again, is another.
You have to wrap up. I apologize. There's like 30 seconds left.
Oh, no worries. Well, anyway, think about user trust, get some reviews in there. And my final point is just trust banners. A great way to show people that your website's trustworthy is just to think about putting in the icons, putting on some USBs, put that on your homepage, put that on your product pages, put that on your category pages. If that's consistent across the website, then that can be a really great way to just showcase user trust. And thanks to Mark for all that. And yeah, I guess that's me.
I don't want that to stop. I know people are like, no, let's continue. Well, Oliver, thank you so much. This was hilarious, educational, smart, like amazing. I see so many smiles and like so many people just clapping and stuff. Thank you so much. We will be, if you have a couple of minutes, stay, join the next session as well. People, if you want to just ask your questions in the next session in the chat, feel free to do that. And if Oliver is available to answer, that would be awesome.
Sure, will do.
Thank you so much, everyone. I will see you in the next session.
Bye.